And welcome back. This is your man Warrior, and I have got a lot of videos coming up that I'm working on. Most of them are actually roster reviews. I've got an overpouring of individuals who want me to do a roster review. Some, again, will leave them private, but others want them to be public so other people can learn from them. But today, we are going to be going over acronyms and abbreviations. Now, this is not going to be every single acronym, every single possible abbreviation of every character in the game. This is just a very comprehensive list to get anybody, whether you're brand new to the game or whether you have been playing this game for over a year, to make sure we are all on the same acronym page, right? We've got to make sure that when we're talking the same thing. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to go over some general acronyms, okay? So the first general acronym is AI. That AI stands for artificial intelligence, and what they're talking about is they're referring to the computer that controls the other team or the decisions that it makes. AOE. That stands for literally area of effect. It means it's a multi-target attack. You're going to hit multiple characters when you do that. It's often referred to as the attack on everyone, and that's okay as well, but it does technically mean area of effect. CG or EA. So CG stands for Capital Games. They're the actual developers of the game. EA stands for Electronic Arts, and they're the publisher of this game. DOT. It stands for damage over time, and those are the little red debuffs that go over the characters' heads that do damage over time to their health. And this is like Darth Vader's well known for this, Boba Fett is well known for this, Sidious. There's a ton of characters who like to put the damage over time. Even the new Biston character can put damage over time, so that's pretty cool. DPS, that literally stands for damage per second. However, it really shouldn't probably be applied in this game because our game is not an active live game. It's a turn-based game, and so with turn-based games, you're not really going to refer to how much damage you're doing per second, but it's loosely used in this game, DPS, meaning a high damage character such as Rey, who could hit, for 30 grand in one swack. So when you're swacking somebody and swacking them hard, they're going to be what's called a DPS character, or a high damage per second character. DS, dark side, pretty simple. F2P, or free to play. Free to play just literally means you do not have to spend money on the game. Now, free to play can be pretty loose. What it means is that you're not consistently investing money in the game. Free to play does not mean that you've never, ever spent a penny in the game. There are many free to play characters who've invested $5, $8, $20 as a one-time thing, and that is okay because they're playing 95+% of the time completely and utterly free to play. A singular investment does not take you out of the realm of free to play. Pay to play, or P2P, pay to play, means that you consistently spend money in the game. So free to play doesn't spend any or very little. Pay to play means you make consistent investments in the game. Now there's a very similar term. Instead of P2P or pay to play, it's P2W, or play to win. And what that means is that the individual is literally going to continue to spend money until they can beat or win whatever it is that they're trying to overcome. So somebody who has to be #1 in their shard may be a P2W character because they just have to keep spending until they have that advantage with the money. So even P2P doesn't necessarily mean that you're spending as much as a P2W character. And a pay-to-play character is who obviously supports the game with their money, and that is how the game continues. If the game didn't make money, it wouldn't exist. So that is actually a good thing that we have P2P. I did go over DS, which was dark side, so the opposite obviously of that is LS, which is light side. We also hear a lot of GL. I got my GL to 10, GL to 9. GL literally just means gear level. GW means Galactic War. That's the war that at level 40 and above you'll get to start doing each and every day. HM stands for hard mode battles. The hard mode battles, there's light side and dark side, easy mode or easy nodes, and hard nodes. And the hard nodes, they're often referred to as HM. HP literally just means health or hit points. HP stands for health points or hit points, but it's how you look at it. Really, in this game, it would be health points because that's how much health that you have in the game. If you see an L in front of something with parentheses, what that's doing is that's denoting a certain character who has the leadership of that. So if someone's talking and they use an L, so like I'm using a Lando L, and then I'm using blah, 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 what they're saying is they're using Lando as the leader. They're just not typing out leader. OP is a video game meaning that's not just in this game, but in every game. And what it means is it's overpowered. Overpowered it's probably the most abused of all of the acronyms out there. What overpowered means is that there is a base power in every game, and overpowered means literally it's over that base power. So if you have 80 characters that are pretty even Steven, they've got the same amount of hit capabilities, and they all have some give and take, but they're all on average, you can build basic team comps that can beat other team comps, but then you have a team that comes out that nobody can beat. It's literally like maybe, for example, the Tito, the Team Instinct timeout teams that people are having struggles with. Those characters combined together make up an overpowered team, meaning a team that is so difficult to beat that most cannot. Overpowered can refer to also just an individual character. If they're given too much power in the game, they become overpowered. For example, getting multiple abilities that are so good that they just overshadow the rest of the characters within the game. PvE and PvP. PvE stands for player versus environment. PvP stands for player versus player. So when you're in the squad arena, you're in PvP, playing against other people's teams. However, it's technically not PvP because you're playing against the AI, so it should be player versus AI. But we refer to PvP in this game as player versus player, meaning your squad arena, or if you're in the Galactic War fighting other squads in the Galactic War. For PvE, or player versus environment, it's talking about the light side missions, the dark side missions, the cantina battles, the mod challenges, any of the other challenges or events that they bring out where we fight against the computer. That's what PvE is referencing to. The next thing that's kind of similar to that is RNG. RNG literally just means random number generator. Every game that has to determine a random outcome or chance uses an RNG, or a random numbers generator, to come up with the outcome. So when you are farming for gear or farming for shards or whatever, it drops a random amount. It will have a percentage that it always drops, but that percentage will vary. Sometimes you'll get it at 50% drop, sometimes you'll get it at 10% drop. It will average, but the random numbers generator will decide how much each time you click go, it drops at that time. T1 through T7, T1, T2, T3, T4, those kinds of things. What they're talking about are the tiers. T stands for tiers, and 1 through 7 is the tier of the raid. So they're referring specifically to the Rancor raid, which is one of the 2 raids currently in the game, and they're referring to the level or the tier of raid that they're doing. So if they're doing a T6, that means they're doing a level 6 raid. Now, T7 often is referred to as heroic. Now let's move to the next raid, which is the AAT tank raid, and they don't refer to it as the T1 through 7. The reason for that is there is only 2 tiers. There is the normal tier and the heroic tier. So when you hear people talking about heroic, what they are talking about is the highest end of either the AAT tank raid or the heroic or T7 Tier 7 of the Rancor raid. TD, thermal detonators. Much like Greedo or Newt or Mob Enforcer or anybody who's going to throw those bombs, basically, and attach those bombs. There's about, the Jawas do it, and there's a bunch. Zam Wessel does it. So TD is just short for thermal detonators. If you're reading through and you hear people talking about, does the TD do this or the TD do that, what they're talking about are thermal detonators. TM means turn meter. Pretty simple, right? So with any kind of turn meter manipulation, whether you're increasing or decreasing that turn meter, you're going to have people talking about TM. Stormtrooper Han has TM this, TM that, or so-and-so has got a reduced TM. What they're talking about is literally the turn meter, or the meter bar that determines how fast a character takes their turn. Now, the last that we're going to go over on this video for generalized acronyms is we went over the OP, which meant overpowered, but there is the opposite, which is UP, or underpowered. What that means is that a character is their skill set is not sufficient to hang with the other characters within the game, thereby having them fall back and becoming useless characters. Now, the developers, CG, hope you got that, Capital Games, they are working on reworking all of the past characters to ensure that every character becomes viable and is not underpowered. So for example, last month in January, they did a Resistance rework. So they went through each of the Resistance characters and tweaked them and made them better, so that way they would become more viable in the game and not UP, or underpowered. So the last thing on this video we're going to go over just really quick is some basics on video games or TVs, when you're talking about the game. So when you hear about SWGOH, what they're talking about is literally this game that we play called Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. But we have a lot, and I mean a lot, of Star Wars fans, and when they're in the forums, they're going to refer to some of the other video games or TV shows and things as such. So when they talk about SWTOR, they're talking about Star Wars The Old Republic, or KOTOR, which is Knights of the Old Republic, which is awesome, by the way. And then the last is TCW, which stands for The Clone Wars. And I hope if you haven't seen Clone Wars, you go out and see it, because if you haven't watched it, you won't understand why there is such an affinity for the clones within this current game. Now, the last acronym or so that I'm going to put on this video is SWGOH.GG. Often referred to as Swagagaga. Now, the reason why I'm putting them on here last is because they are an amazing website, all-in-one stop-shop resource for you. And the last thing I'll say about them is this website will allow for you to sync your account of your game to them, and then they will be able to showcase to you or to the world, you can make it public or private, everything you have. And so when you're playing and you need help, you'll be able to have other people look and be able to cultivate your team to see what you're doing right or what you maybe need to do different, such as the roster reviews that I do for my patrons. So that is why I'm mentioning Swagagaga. Now, with that, they also will sync your mods. Now, the caveat to that is your mods need to be on your characters at the time of syncing, and it will automatically sync at the time that you set, which is normally your local time for payout. And then those mods will be in there, and then you can use a mod filter to really look through all 500, 1,000, whatever, however many you have, to look through and see what characters have what mods that you need, so you know how to get through them and to find the right ones. So we're gonna do another video that's going to go over some more acronyms and nicknames. That will be the part 2 to this. I hope that this is going to help you guys all, whether you've been playing for 2 weeks or whether you've been playing for over a year. As always, keep your gaming on. Warrior out.